Hi there, it's Ian here, and you're watching Grumpy Opinions, the show where I'm going to tell you all about what I think of films, TV shows, games, and life in general. Let's get on with the show. Outlander is a TV show about Jamie and Claire Fraser, and they're extended across time and place, family and friends. I mean, that kind of covers it, right? Episode 3, The False Bride, starts off with us not actually in America, but in Bonnie, Scotland, back at the manse where Roger is finally packing up his stuff and moving out of his dad's old place. It looks like he's sold or given the house to wee Fiona, the housekeeper, and her new blokey. Oh, it's nice that she got over him. Turns out he's off to the New World himself to catch up with Bree and then play guitar at some kind of Scottish folk shindig or something. And once he's in Bostown, he has like an awkward meet cute with the Breester, and then that turns into them driving down a green screen road, like while they play the Minister's Cat, like, a pair of 12-year-olds trying to like one-up each other at a spelling bee. Which must be like how academics flirt, because it's only a couple of four-syllable words later, and she's trying to get a kiss off him, and sends his car like careening across the road. So clearly they've died and they're now in Brigadoon Hell. I mean, no, they're not really dead, I'm joking. But anyway, they might as well be, because this is some kind of crazy Jesus H. Hookter, Chukter, and Christ nonsense. I mean, honestly, this is Brigadoon times 10. Anyway, I'm almost borderline offended, but still, they seem to be having fun. So at these sort of authentic kind of gathering, but nobody's actually falling over drunk and it's only mid-afternoon. So they continue to have a bit of clunky how soon till bedtime chat that feels like about as forced as it sounds. And then they finally get a bit of drawing done by a guy who draws like terrifying baby pictures apparently. Anyway, action finally hots up when they go to the Carey tent and they strip the willow. No, honestly, that's what it's called. The arm hook spinny thing. It's called stripping the willow. And it all goes a wee bit Titanic, and romance is clearly in the air. And then later on, Roger's tearing up the stage in some kind of wee folk band malarkey, and Bree sits looking on adoringly like next to like Chips and Beans Henry Winkler. And then Roger goes like full on the Corries and starts singing a wee song, and clearly by the end, pretty much every lassie in the wound wants a bit of his fluffy beard and to see what's under his kilt. So as the night's now fair drawing in, they start to heading back to their chalets, and apparently they're not sleeping together. I mean, I thought they were boyfriend and girlfriend and this is the 60s, but I mean, who knows? But there's a bit of kissing, and then Roger's like, I'm gonna go back to my bit, maybe see you later. So Bree tries a new approach and like pulls out some moonshine, which she managed to get him, even though it's apparently a dry county. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what that is, but there you go. Sounds like a strange idea. But 2 drinks in, and Roger starts getting friendly with a deer's head. So clearly Bree starts getting, sick of all this, and straight up goes taps off. And finally that makes Roger realise that Roger is actually a verb as well as a name. So he finds like her legs off button, and she falls over, and then he stops and gives her a bracelet, and then he screws it all up by asking her to marry him. And mate, don't propose until at least the 3rd date, honestly, you total chew. And then he doesn't stop there, he wants an answer right there and then, and he's all like thinking about how many kids they're gonna have, and bloody hell, Roger, you total clown, what are you doing? She's like, slow down, buddy. But then, like, he goes into a total strop, and he's all like, that's not right. And she's like, mate, it's fine, and the night's still young, so, we can still get it on. And he's all like grumpy princess about it, because apparently he loves her, and like, it's not enough for him if she doesn't love him enough to actually marry him. So they have a great big, like, grumpy fight. And what's that sound coming over the hill? Sounds like it might be a dumper truck. You know what I'm saying. So anyway, the next night, it's big clan time, and Roger's all alone. But he's saved wee Bree a seat, and they have a bit of a heart-to-heart, but he's still being hard in the head about it and stuck in his ways. So when it finally gets to him being like part of the clan thing and holding up his big burning torch, she doesn't go with him. And after he turns round after he set fire to the beastie, she's left. And he looks well sad, poor Roger. But maybe those girls from the sing-along scene are still up for it. Meanwhile, in ye olden times, Claire and Jamie have had enough of Jocasta's plantation and the idea of being slaves, so they've just decided to just toss that off and then go straight to the wilderness to seek their fortunes, but they still leave with like her blessing and some candlesticks that belong to Jamie's mum. And Claire and her have a bit of a standoff, since they're both strong, feisty women, but Jocasta gets in a couple of jibes and makes Claire think about the fact that she is really taking Jamie away from all of his potential and the chance to actually be a big important man just to be a printer who lives in the wilderness. But they managed to also get Bill the Pony, Clarence the Mule, and just in the nick of convenience timing, Quincy B. Plot Contrivance shows up to help them along. And he drops some historical facts about the Native Americans and, all the Cherokee women that wee Ian can't help to bring up because he's a wee horny devil. And anyway, they're only there for a day or so, but despite, them all being within about 2 feet of each other, Quincy and wee Ian have made some kind of plan to go shopping or something. So they leave Claire and Jamie to sit alone and have a chat about Boston and how about starting out in the wilderness. And then off they ride looking cheerful and occasionally a bit glaikit, and Claire starts prattling on about Brianna, and then Frank with absolutely nary a care about how Jamie might feel about that. But then a big metaphorical storm starts brewing. I mean, no, it is actually a storm, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, he talks about being an outlaw and how if he was still alone, he'd probably still be one. But, now he has her to worry about and he's all good with that, so things are fine. And after that, Bill the pony, Clarence the mule, rushes off, and Claire goes off to catch him. But then she gets lost in the woods, and Zeus zaps a tree near her because I don't know why. But then she wakes up and it's cold and she's alone, and she finds a skull with an axe wound in it under a tree. And then she finds a strange stone. But then there's a light, and a magically disappearing Native American guy who has a similar wound in his head. It's slightly different, but it's very similar. So maybe he's a ghost. And then Jamie's out looking for her, but he's got no joy because of the noise and the storm. And the next day she wakes up and her shoes are missing, and there's footprints on the ground. So maybe she's been sleepwalking or something, but it's all a bit odd. And she gets back to where Jamie is, and her shoes are there, and he's confused because he thought it was her and she'd been there and then left again. But anyway, the shoes have led them to that place, so presumably they'll find each other. And then she has to look at the skull, and it turns out it's a future skull with fillings in it, which wouldn't be invented for another 100 years or something like that. So who was this guy? And then they wander up and they find some strawberries on a hill, and right there they look across a beautiful digital matte painting of a valley, and then they realise that this is going to be the perfect place for them to make a homestead and build a life, and they're going to call it Fraser's Ridge. Aww. So what did I think? Well, I thought this week was... I thought this week... I liked some stuff this week. No, I did. It was really cute seeing Roger saying bye to his old house, and there was that bit of awkwardness with him and Bree at the airport, when you thought maybe, they were going to kiss, and it was oh, so I'm not really sure what their relationship is. And that was interesting. It was a good way to get that across to the audience. And it was really nice to see that wee bit of song, and it's really good and interesting to see that Richard Rankin's actually a really good singer and a performer. That's really going to do him well later in life, maybe, if he ever wants to be a busker or something. But for the time being, stick with acting because he's good at that. And I really liked him shouting the clan motto to Luchard, at the end of that bit when he set fire to the thing. That was a lovely wee touch and a throwback to season 1 and the Mackenzies. But and it all looked really nice. Except for some of the green screening. And I got to be honest, folks, I'm struggling. I'm struggling so bad with this because, this was such a bad episode. Okay, guys, it's me. I'm here for you guys, and I need you guys to be here for me as well, because I've got to be honest. I thought this was the worst episode of Outlander I've ever seen in my life. I thought this episode stank. I thought it was reekingly bad. I thought, honestly, I have never been this bored and this annoyed at watching the show in my life. So, where to begin? So, let's be honest, this is the week when pretty much nothing ever happened. Literally, nothing ever happened in this episode. Let's take it, the biggest problems. Actually, let's start with the biggest bugbear, and one that I can actually have to say probably comes from the director, because I can't see how it can come from anyone else. But there's a weird stiltedness to a lot of the acting and the delivery in this episode. Some of the ways that people deliver dialogue feels really strange. It feels out of character from the way that the actors have been doing it. And I first noticed it at the beginning of the episode when John Bell's doing that wee speech on the staircase with Jamie. This is John Bell. He's been fantastic in this. He was fantastic in the Hobbit films. He's been fantastic in loads of things. And he's been usually amazing in Outlander. And this week, he sounds like he's a kid in a high school play. He's over enunciating every word, and none of it's his usual naturalistic delivery. It was a bit strange. But then the same thing was happening with Jamie and Claire later when they were riding through the countryside. It all sounded a little bit clunky. Maybe they just got the dialogue on the day and they hadn't really learned it, or that something was off. Nobody seemed to be right in this episode. And then, oh God, there was that terrible moment where where Claire was actually riding along, and just before the lightning struck.
Clarence! Where are you? Easy, boy, easy. Damn it. Where am I?
And it wasn't just the delivery of the dialogue. There was a lot of little weird looks and stuff, and maybe it was just the way that it was cut together, but there was a weird community theatre sort of feel to it. The way that at the end of that whole bit about the Cherokee women when Ian was talking to Quincy and that, and then Jamie and Claire give these silly little, honestly, I can honestly say it's amateur theatre looks to each other. And there was loads of moments like that all the way through it, or specifically all the way through all the 1700s stuff. It didn't seem to be the same in the scenes with Roger and Bree. That actually seemed to be done better. Maybe that was where they focused all the attention, but it was kind of strange. And then that whole bit about Jamie wanting to be an outlaw, that felt kind of out of nowhere. I've been watching the show from the beginning, and I never got the feeling that Jamie wanted to be an outlaw, and that was what his secret ken and passion was. Maybe it was just a bit of a sexy bedtime thing to say, because Claire looked a bit cheerful about that until the metaphor storm decided to kick in. but it was all just a bit strange. And then looking further, what was on with Roger? I mean, that whole business. I mean, maybe. I mean, that could be maybe the character. We haven't really delved that much into what he feels about these things, but that feels like a weird misstep that we've not gotten a lot of information. Because let's face it, at the end of last season, or last time we saw them, we saw Bree and Roger at Christmas having a bit of a sneaky peck and a kiss and under the mistletoe, and then maybe it's just me. I mean, this could be my modern day, sensibilities in it. But I kind of assumed that 5 minutes after that, they were probably upstairs, to do the nasty. I mean, that's just me. Maybe I'm an old romantic at heart, but I thought they were fully on. And then this is supposed a year later, and they've spent lots of time together. Are you honestly saying that they basically just went, oh, it's fine, let's keep this all chaste and lovely? And that just seems strange. And then for him to go from that to suddenly a bit of a kiss and a bit of a fondle on the ground, and then suddenly, boom, he's like, you better marry me, and if you don't marry me, I'm going to get angry, and I'm not going to like it, and then suddenly, I'm going to hate it, because, I won't sleep with you, even though I've been with other women, but I didn't love them, but I love you, so now I have to marry you, and you have to be mine forever. I mean, I'm not surprised that Bree was like, what are you all about, mate? I mean, it's strange. It just seems odd, and it doesn't seem like a natural way for someone to behave. And I don't feel like we know him well enough for that to make sense. And I think maybe if we had a bit more understanding of who he was, that would have made sense. Because at this point, I'm like, well, that's fine. It's a shame you built this character up because I no longer care about him. I just think he's an idiot. And I don't really understand why he's even in the show. But that's kind of a microcosm of like some of the problems with the writing in this, is it all felt just a bit badly thought through. I mean, most of it, in terms of like the Roger and the Bree stuff, I actually quite liked. But the stuff on the other side, the 1700s stuff, it just felt like they were just wasting time. It's like, oh, well, we've got to have so many episodes. And after 2 or 3 episodes where they've hammered through stuff so fast, to have an episode like this where it felt like it was peddling water for the entire hour of the show. I mean, it could be I'm wrong, and it could be people really like that. It might be that for a lot of people, that's exactly what they wanted. They just wanted Claire and Jamie out in the woods by themselves. They want Bree and Roger having a bit of marital soap opera strife. But for me, that seems like the least interesting thing about Outlander. I mean, I like the romance and the soap opera and like the family and squabbles and that and the personal like little things going on between people. But I like it to be against a background of something more exciting happening. I mean, here's the other thing. And then randomly in this, they just threw in, oh, you know what we haven't had in this for ages? Ghosts and magic. Because, I mean, we had the ghost in the very, very first episode, and we had that weird stone in the second season. But since then, and we had Psychic Claire picking up a skull and going, back in season 3. So usually once per season, there's some kind of tiny little supernatural thing that never really kind of ties into anything else. And in this one, it's a skull. And it really bugged me because the guy, the Native American actor who was wandering around, I mean, assuming he is Native American, I mean, I know that he had face paint on. I mean, maybe he's not, but I know that there was an awful lot of people who were the First Nation Canadians, I think they're called, who are basically Native Americans from Canada, who came down and acted in this and did all that. And I'm not sure if that guy was one of them, or if he was just somebody who was done up in kind of Native American face paint and stuff. I mean, I presume they wouldn't do that because that's kind of shocking if they did. But it seemed a bit strange that he had that gash. It looked like he'd been scalped and he had a big split in his skull. But the split in his skull was right in the centre of his head. But the split in the little skull that she was holding in her hand was on the side. So is it the same guy? Is it the same head? I mean, maybe not. And if it's meant to be the same guy and the same wound in the same place, how do you mess that up? Because I mean, you're shooting in the same place. Did somebody not turn around and go, "Oh, guys, we've bummed this up. We've put the broken bit in the skull in the wrong bit. Should we not just spend 5 minutes and make it right?" Nah, well, nobody will notice. Ian will never notice. But then, sadly, I did. But I'm just curious because I mean, does this mean now they have some kind of weird spirit helper? Is it all going to go a bit twee? Is it going to go a bit Twin Peaks? What's going to happen now? But I've got to be honest, guys. I mean, the show's called Grumpy Opinion, and I think this is the first time I've actually been genuinely this grumpy at the show because I feel let down. And the advert for next week looks like what I kind of expected this week to be about. And I kind of wish it had been because, frankly, I'm kind of bored. I'm really bored by this episode, and I feel like I've had a week wasted by watching this because I want to know what's going on. I want things to advance, and I'm glad that they found their little valley, and I'm glad that that Roger and Bree had a little bit of marital strife because that was about the most interesting thing in the episode. But beyond that, honestly, you could have done most of this in 2 minutes. I mean, this could have been literally been like the pre-credit amble stuff. Could have been them riding off and going, "Oh, we found a nice place. Boom, Fraser's Ridge. What's that over there? Oh, is it a skull? Oh, I've just seen a magical, ghostly Indian guy. What's that all about? I don't know. Oh well, and then that would be it. But anyway, I think I'm getting wound up now, so I'm going to call it quits at this point. But thanks for listening. Please don't be too harsh if you disagree with me, but please tell me what you think in the comments. Am I wrong? Am I right? Did you enjoy this? Are you liking this new season? I know a lot of people are finding this season a bit tough, but apparently this book's the toughest one to get through. So anyway, until next time, I've been Ian, and these have been my grumpy opinions.